terms of supporting children to find limits. It's the same to me as sugar, computers, and it should be the same effect. Children can't decide for themselves to stop eating sweets if you give them loads. We have to help them, we have to talk about stuff. And the way that we do that at IPA is by providing really exciting adventure playgrounds, because we know that once children get there, they'll want to come and come again. And that's what we need to do, show them the alternatives.
Personally, as an old Camden girl, I'd like to say, I'm concerned that schools don't promote play enough, and I think that comes. I don't think I need that as an exception. I'll try. I'll use it. Hello, I don't know how to use these things. I'm technical. Anyway, just to say about, I think we should be getting back into schools, and charities like yourself should be going back into schools and promoting play. I think head teachers and teachers are scared because, again, another announcement, reintroducing tests for 7-year-olds. How do you think we can combat what's happening?
I think that's a really good point, and I think the trouble is all grown-ups are scared. All grown-ups are scared of children hurting themselves. Even people sometimes will complain at an adventure playground that their child had an argument with another child. You know, if I hadn't done some of the things I did, I don't feel like I'd be here. If somebody had been constantly controlling me and making sure that I didn't trick those poor boys out of their sweets when I was pool hustling them, would I be here? Nowadays I think I'd get in trouble. You're not allowed to do this stuff. But I think in terms of going into schools, yeah, I mean our IPA does try and work with the schools, and we are working closely with a number of schools. We're getting teachers to bring groups of children into the playground. We also take staff sometimes into the school playground and think about how they can use the space differently there. I think there is a lot of support for there being more play in the schools, and the NUT particularly are supporting it. But it's really hard times, you know, going back to Shami talking about the government that we've got right now, it feels hard in many different directions, but like she said also, we all need to fight, and IPA is fighting particularly on this level. Lots of other organisations are fighting in other ways, and we need to work together and think about having these conversations in an even bigger room than this one.
I agree with what you said about children having their own freedom to play and everything, but don't you think that, especially now compared to before, that it's dangerous to see like kids walking out on the streets by themselves? So that could be like a negative effect to it.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really big issue, particularly for us here in Islington. There's been a number of stories and terrible, terrible tragedies that make everybody feel very anxious about children being out on the street and walking around by themselves. And I think that's the reality that we need to face. I think in actual fact, in terms of the figures, it's not more dangerous now than it used to be when I was walking around the streets in the 70s. There was a lot of terrible things that have come out since. So I think in actual fact it's safer now. But I think there's no getting away from the sense that we all have, that we need to protect each other, we need to protect children. Part of what IPA believes is that if children are given responsibility and freedom, then they work out how to protect themselves and manage their lives. Because we can't protect everybody from what's going to happen to them. Different things are going to happen to you all and to everybody. The best hope you can have is to build up your resilience and strength and be able to cope with what comes around the corner. That's what I hope my speech was about as well.
With the pressures of school on young children, like not me, because I generally don't play. Like me, I go on the computer. I'd rather not go to the adventure playground. But when I was younger, I would sure like to. But even in primary school, I had huge pressure on me to stay in, go home and do your homework. Like we have no time, and I'm sure parents prefer that as well, because there is a lot of pressure on kids now to do well in school, and if you don't, then you're kind of pushed to the background. And what would you say is like a benefit of playing?
I think it is really hard in schools nowadays in terms of the pressure, the additional testing, and the fact that schools are judged on how well you do in your exams, so they're going to really really push you to do that. But what I hope will happen is that the teachers who aren't the school, they're individual real people, right, who actually care about children and went into that job because they care about children, can think about how we can work together more and make sure there's more space for children to be able to play. I think there is an additional issue that parents worry about what's happening with children and feel that if you work all the time you'll do better at your exams. But I'm sure that you know that if you play some of the time, you do better at your exams. And that's what we need to remind people of.
Hello. I remember when I was younger in primary school, and I used to think that I had a lot of homework. So obviously I was wrong. Now in year 11 I do see what's homework. But I remember perfectly that I thought I had no time to play on a weekly basis. So I had my weekend, but I always had homework to do on the weekend as well. So I always felt really trapped into my school life. And nowadays, I think it's even worse because there's more tests and more exams being implemented in younger years and more pressure being put, and schools are judged just on how the students have their results and not how they feel in school. And I think that's one of the biggest problems we have in our society, is that we're judged on our results and not on our daily basis. And how would you suggest something that, for example, we leave school at 4:30. On a winter day, that's really late. We don't have time to go out after homework and, do something not school related. So we are obligated to stay home safely and kind of give up and just go to our screens. How would you suggest one thing that we can do, or one change that you would do to stop this?
Well, I think, it is really, really difficult. But I just can't say how important it is for you and your parents and your teachers to try and think about getting some headspace. There's lots of research now that is starting to come out to show that children will actually do better at school if they have space to be a bit more creative, space to work things out and get some inspiration. And that's the message that we need to get out. As an organisation, IPA runs campaigns and tries to talk to parents, and definitely tries to talk to teachers about helping people find that space. If you value, and your parents and your teachers value, the time that you spend playing, which might just look like doing nothing, but we all know that isn't what's happening. If we can remind people to value that, then we will be able to find time for it. Homework is just a terrible, terrible thing that you do have to do. It does pass eventually. You get old. It's a sort of payoff. But I think it's really important, and it's really important for my organisation as well, and we talk about this a lot, to think about it. The adventure playgrounds that we do run are open after school every single day. They are there, but we know that some of the challenges for children getting there are around adults allowing them to go there. And so that's why we're constantly trying to talk to adults about why it's important for children that they still get to play and get that space.
Mine is a suggestion, actually, rather than a question. But listening to these young women who are really talking about how homework and computers and parents' anxiety about their safety is a reality. Could it not be like swimming pools where children go during the day to actually have lessons, but actually schools could take young people to your adventure playgrounds during the day to actually play off? There's lunch times, there's morning breaks. Yeah. Actually, if we had young people running around and challenging themselves, actually it may take some of that excess energy that they may have in the classroom away.
Yeah, and we do have some relationships with schools who do that now. It's just a process of discussing with schools, and logistically it's difficult for schools to work that out. Teachers are fighting the government as hard as everyone else in terms of the curriculum and the restrictions that they've got. But we have got a number of schools who do use the sites during the day, and you're right, it really works well.
Because people like now our age in secondary, they mostly have like lots of education and they have to keep focused because they have loads of exams. Don't you think that playing will cause any distractions to learning, or is it like?
Well, my understanding about play is that it allows your brain to have the freedom to explore ideas and find out who you are in the world, which might be a distraction, but could be seen as quite a good distraction. And I really believe that playing only adds to your abilities in every other aspect of your life, because it's there that you connect with who you really are and what's really going on within you. And I think that that will only make you better at doing the exams that you're going to have.